Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.
Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Ayesha Mubarak Ali, who is the co-founder and creative director at Metavisionaries. She is also on the advisory board of the Metaverse Fashion Council and formerly founded Oshii, Brownie and Cosmic Drive. And today we're going to talk about wearable art and virtual fashion for the Metaverse and what the whole thing is actually about. Thank you for being here, Ayesha. It's a pleasure talking with you. And starting out, I would love to hear from you. What are you passionate about? What are you doing from every day, or basically every day? And yeah, whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Kevin, for having me. It's such a great platform that you're trying to build here with the innovators of today. So glad to be here. And I'm actually a fusion tech artist working in the domains of visual art, but at the intersection of technologies, frontier technologies, to be specific. And that includes 3D printing, that includes Web3, Metaverse, but then also space, because I'm interested in that intersection and those blurred lines between all of these disciplines, right? So my practice is around those, and my in my everyday life I explore, I research on these things, and then obviously they translate into my work with Oshii Brownie, which is again a digital art related passion project, but also with Metavisionaries, because that's a project that I've started with a team that is really passionate about space and frontier technology. So yeah, this is how my everyday life is, and this is my work practice these days. So
Awesome, super interesting. I saw in one of your last posts that you actually sent some art into space. Is that right? Awesome.
yeah, yeah. That's I still can't believe it myself. So I don't know how to answer that. But yeah, we actually it's through Metavisionaries, right? Because again, like I said, we've been working on space economy, and there are some amazing partners with us on board. So the idea was to show people that what's next for space, basically. So why do we send things to space? And when we say space, people think it's unrelatable, because obviously we have so many issues going on in our environment around us, that we don't want to think about what's going on in space and all of that thing. It's like super science fiction for us, right? It's something that we experience in films, right? But at the same time, again, within Metavisionaries, the entire idea is to link it in a way that we say that, now sending things, it's more accessible than you thought it was. And when we started off that project, I remember, with SpaceX and NASA and all these organizations, which obviously are at the forefront with technology and space related applications. So we decided that we're going to send some digital art, which is again in combination with AI. There's going to be some music, and also there are going to be some space science experiments. Okay, so the science experiments, which can actually be beneficial for the future, for the future sustainability. And again, those can only happen with the intersection of art, right? So they can't exist on in its own bubble. The science needs as much art as art needs science, right? So that was the idea, and that's why when I was told that, okay, we're now sending it, and there's a space flight, and rocket Falcon with Project Mallet too. So the spacecraft which actually holded all the work, all the AI boxes, that was Dragon. Its name was Dragon. So that just happened, Kevin, and yeah, I'm so grateful that happened, because it's one thing to display your work in some great museum here, or you get exhibited, you get your work recognized in some way for its social value, but it's a second thing to just feel that your work actually goes to that unknown frontiers, right? So that's really surreal.
Awesome. Yeah, just thinking about many artists actually want their art to go somewhere, but yours went to space.
Yeah,
Literally
that's
to the
one
moon.
thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Super cool. Yeah, speaking of art, there has been a true, I would say, oh, I wouldn't say hype, but a lot of things going on in the virtual fashion world, right? with things that you can actually wear on, I don't know, on Zoom calls or wherever. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. So I remember like 2 years back, this all thing started with the hype of NFTs, and there are so many people who still think that anything that we experience of that sort, like with a slight mention of the crypto world, they think it's NFTs, right? So that's a big myth. NFTs is, I think, how we started to get ourselves involved in the industry, but it has so much more to offer. Like these days, I'm not even doing anything remotely to what NFT can provide, right? I'm working on Metaverse. I'm working on intersection of virtual identity, like what you mentioned, that on the Zoom calls, people are now interested to kind of think about alternatives if they're not if they're not comfortable with having their own personal selves in the interviews, in the webinars, then they can have a substitute option, right? So again, we're bringing accessibility to how the education can be perceived, but then also how human brain works, and how a human can have multiple options to represent themselves, right? um, I think from that angle, it's great because as an artist, I've always been interested in exploring identity, even with the space ideas, right? So what will human identity be in space, right? So for me, that's the core idea, that how is human responding to all these technologies, right? So when you mention it, Kevin, I think it's amazing because this is one area people need to think about in terms of how they will be communicating, and that's a norm now. So that is actually one of the implications, and then we have metaverse and other stuff happening.
Awesome. Yeah, basically, we need to get past those kind of best buzzwords, right? People actually should just enjoy the art or use the utility or something and just get value out whatever you basically have in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And since I'm not an artist by far myself, I would be interested in why do you think people actually do that? I can imagine that, or I have some sense for that, right? But I would be interested, why do you think people want to have wearables, for example, on Zoom calls, right? That would be interesting for me.
Yeah, so I think people always enjoy fashion. People always enjoy seeing themselves, represented differently. That's how I would put it. And it goes way back. It goes way back when we had actual fashion shows. It goes even way back, right? Like since the history of mankind, people have loved expressing themselves, and that hasn't changed, right? That hasn't changed. We have had a lot of designers all over the world, and we don't see anytime soon that thing is going to stop. Our love for self-expression and human inclusivity, feeling relatable through changing ourselves and through bringing color in our own lives. I think that's just something so ingrained in us. And then the same phenomena we see in the web3, right? So web3 is not doing anything new, it's just a different way of putting them all together, right? So I don't see digital fashion as something that people should question, that why it is here. What's the use of it, and if we have real clothes versus digital clothes. Because see, the idea is not to have digital versus physical. The conversation is to allow things to coexist and breathe, right? If you just see this as any other technology and its potential is right in front of us, then how can we basically use it for our own advantage? At the end of the day, it's about what impact we can bring with all these things, right? So if it's fashion, that's great. It's a beautiful picture, but what is it doing for the mankind, right? What is it doing? What is your business doing for others? I think those are better questions than just setting yourself in this debate that, oh, this is digital versus physical, right? It's just a technology, right? Like everything else. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, awesome. 100% agree with that. Just looking at the internet, right? Nobody cares actually how you basically develop a website or actually host that or create that, right? If it's with WordPress, nobody cares, right? It just needs to look good, needs to provide value in some kind of sense, and that's
Yeah.
how it will be with all that Web3 in general, right? No matter if it's Metaverse, NFTs, whatsoever, right? It should be easy to use,
Yeah.
and as you said, feel good, right? it should actually convey some value. And why, based on that, do you think these kind of things need to be or should be? I think that's a better question, right? Should be NFTs.
Okay, so I think the topic of NFTs has become a bit more complex than it used to be. I would say this, that if you're thinking about an NFT project, an NFT drop, your own personal NFTs, just think about what NFTs mean before turning your artworks into NFTs, right? Because it's now more like very easy to just go to any website and list it, right? Not even mint it, just list it first, right? um, but I think the core values of what the potential of the immersive reality, that metaverse has nothing to do with the NFTs, right? You can think of NFT as an access point. You can think of it as a token, like you get a ticket for a concert, right? But at the end of the day, the real value of NFT, again, if it's an NFT art, the real value is why that art is an NFT, right? And who is the artist? The same questions that we always ask. That if this is the artist, then what was the thought process? Why are we looking at this visual? Like those questions have not changed. We still want to have a story. We still want to have relatability. So what is NFT doing? NFT is just a way to present it. It's just a way to get your monetary benefit, like you would do otherwise in a museum, or in an art gallery where you are representing being represented as an artist, right? So don't think of NFT like it's going to solve some issues for you, or maybe like NFT is like the end result, or maybe if there's a hype going on, you are like you're having some FOMO and you want to mint some artworks right away. Like that's not going to bring you anything in the long run. In fact, answering these questions and building a community around your project, whatever you're passionate about, I think that's more sustainable way to see NFTs. I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, many people consider NFTs also a new way of branding and marketing itself, right? Basically, of retaining customers, or basically building a real community, which is not just a social media following, but really is attached to your brand or to you as an artist, right? And that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, when we are talking about these kind of wearables, virtual wearables, do you think those kind of 3D models that you can put on your real true self, for example in Zoom calls, will be will serve a larger audience in future, or rather going full virtual, for example in a sandbox, Decentraland, NFT worlds, whatsoever? Where do you rather see more potential going forward?
Yeah. So for now, I've seen a lot of brands and the focus on AR, VR, metaverse, these kind of things. But I think moving forward, if we are going to think about the digital wearables and where they can be used in a more interoperable way, I think that really has to do with, again, more than just the technical value that the work is bringing first, but then also I think, the phygital fashion, this new word that we've seen around now. Although I haven't seen many brands taking that as the core value of their project, like phygital is still a word that I see just floating on web. um, but I think if that is one structure that could be seriously looked at, I think that could actually bring a lot of business ideas, especially for people, especially for designers who know nothing about Web3, right? You can really partner with them. I think they're left behind. They are not taken with us on this journey. So Web3 is its own community. They support each other. But the designers, again, because they don't know where to start, yes, they are coping up. But if we can kind of put that as part of our strategy when we design the project, I think there's so much that can be achieved. Just imagine the craftsmanship that you see in like traditional clothing, right? It's amazing, like the level of materials. Like I'm just talking from my own experience and my own culture here in Pakistan, that I've seen like wedding clothes, they are made in an entirely different way. So that understanding, that sensibility, if you translate in the digital clothes, if those craftsmen start working with the digital people. I mean, that's a revolution in itself, right? Maybe we will need more tools, maybe we'll come up with a more better design interface in the process. But the idea is that if you start having conversations and having that cross pollination of ideas, I think that's the future, right? So the future is not going to be just technology people, trying to think of stuff and doing it on their own, especially when it comes to fashion, because the history of fashion is physical fashion, right? History of fashion is not digital. We are like the first people who are thinking about digital fashion, and how we're going to make it successful, it's by learning from our masters, it's by going back to the histories, and it's by going back to those important ideas like tools and the craftsmanship, the traditions. So I think those things are, I don't see them enough. It's just a bubble at the moment, the digital fashion. So I think that's the future of fashion for me.
Awesome. Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. 100%. Um, awesome. Yeah, since you already know, I'm by far no way an artist. I would love to somehow, right? Because expressing yourself in a creative manner is actually super cool. For me, it's just soft development, expressing myself that way. But if you can't do it in a visual manner, that's super cool. Um, I know how the code stuff works, but I don't know how actually you you craft your work, right? How does that work? How you get from an idea to a actual that amazing artwork I've seen on your website, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if you're talking about the digital pieces, then obviously there's a process for that. And if you're talking about the physical wearable works that I've done, so there's a process for that. But the question that you ask, I think for that, it usually starts with a very insane idea. Like maybe it's just a observation. Like for one of the pieces, I was looking at the concept of light pollution, and I remember, and this is a word that people don't hear about often. Like when I said that, they're like, "Oh, but we have the noise pollution, plastic pollution. Now, what is the light pollution, right?" So first, you have to think about its definition. You have to think about how do you communicate that with people who are maybe not interested to read like 100 words long research papers, right? They I know that this research can change their lives, but I know that this is not the way to do that. Maybe the way to do that would be to make it short, to make it engaging, to make it visual, right? Because visuals have impact, right? So what I would do is then put some ideas down, do some sketches, quick sketches, and I would share that with people, obviously off the field, like people who are experts in light pollution or environment sustainability. And I would sit with them, have conversations. And this is actually how I started Cosmic Drive with my co-founder, like Ryan, who's actually into the research bit of it. So then you can think about, okay, so is this idea going to take shape in the digital world as some 3D rendering, or do you need a film maybe, or do you need, because some ideas need a voiceover. So it really depends on the new medium, because I've been working in a lot of mediums. Like I've done a short film, I've done 3D art renderings mixed with mixed medias, and I've also done digital fashion. So again, it really depends on the idea, because I don't see things as a formula that today I'm making a digital painting, so that for the next 5 years I'm going to make a digital painting. Okay, so I think for an artist, it's important to see how that idea evolves and then takes its shape. Maybe that idea will be best expressed as a film, and it can't be expressed as a digital fashion piece, right? So those are the decisions that you have to take, and then you find those people, right, who can come and help you put it together. So I think it's really a team effort. But this is how I came up with the ideas, and then I go in the software, and obviously then comes the technical bits. You have to learn the software. You have to give your hours. You have to just sit and be the fine artist sometimes, and then you have to be the very creative material artist sometimes, then a substance artist, and then an animator. So so many hats that you have to wear, right? So again, it really depends on the work. But those works that you've seen on my website, they were actually done through this process.
Oh wow, awesome. What I really love about this is uh, where when you were talking about that light pollution, basically, facts actually don't move people, right? Everybody knows that we have, for example, also a problem with the environment, right? But
Yeah.
what really brings people to think to in other ways, right, is triggering emotions, right? And you can do
Yes.
that with art, right? And that's just awesome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, since that there are obviously serious processes behind that, but also like as you said, that having that flexibility in mind, right? Shifting away from your own strict process to a more creative manner. How how would you recommend an artist, a young artist, which just starts out, right? To actually get into that direction, right? To actually get their hands onto all that.
Yeah, so I think for upcoming and new artists, they have this leverage that they were born in this world, right? With the digital art, they have consumed it more, they played more games. So obviously that exposure counts, right? So for upcoming artists and upcoming youngsters, I think they should definitely think about their careers, right? First, because they're going to change exponentially in the next decade. The careers that we've known, they are all ending just because the physical world is operating in digital more and more, and with Web3, it's just changing at a very high rate. So first, they should think about where they should invest their learning time, other than their schools, their colleges, universities, because degree can't teach you these things, right? It's self learning. Um, this is the first thing, and then if they want to be an artist, that's amazing. They should start experimenting and see what is their area, because it's one thing to say you are an artist, but then once you're in it, you understand that it's a huge world. You don't know where to basically start it. You don't know where to basically start. And and yeah, like maybe just start learning some metaverse creation software. I mean, if someone is interested in knowing Unreal, learning Unreal and UE5, I think they have such a bright future just because they've learned it. Why? Because there are not many people in the industry, right? And this is just one example. I was trying to find an Unreal UE5 developer, and I couldn't. The really talented people, they are in huge demand, and everyone needs UE5 people. Everyone needs people who can create great NFT, collections. Everyone need people who can put environments from Unity to art space. So these are amazing careers that people can now have, which no one actually thought of. So yeah, so much there.
Wow. Yeah. Many new jobs definitely in making, right? Um, and yeah, why did you actually get into all this, right? It's obviously a great way to make career and express yourself, but what was the trigger when you said, okay, that's something I want to get my hands on?
Yeah, so I mean, are you asking me for the NFT part, like metaverse and all these things, right? Web3.
Your personal story, if you want to share it, like how did you become an artist?
Okay, yeah, yeah. This is a great question. I don't know how to answer it simply, but actually, 5 years back, I was also a traditional artist. I used to paint huge canvases, like 8 foot tall canvas paintings, and used
Wow.
to do some exhibits. Like portrait art was my thing. And then I was on the side always interested in technology, but because of my core area of education, I didn't know where to start, right? And then I started learning a lot through research papers, through fellowship programs, and talking to people who were into like hardcore coding. Like they were integrating emotion mapping, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data collecting, those kind of people. So when I had conversations, that changed everything for me, right? I knew that these things are going to stay, and they were going to kind of define like everything. And this is even before the NFTs and metaverse conversations came into the mainstream, right? And then because I was into all of these things on my own, I always enjoy learning about a new technology, a new headset stuff. I always like I'm the first person to buy it and test it and see how I can do some cool stuff, with the Oculus. You can do so much, like you can create art and immersive light paintings now. So I'm always the first person to kind of try it. And that's where I actually started. And then because of the metaverse and my own interest in 3D graphics, so it was just a natural, I would say, transition. So that just happened.
Oh, wow. Cool. So basically, you just let yourself fly into that direction, right?
Yeah, yeah, you can say that.
Okay. Many very interesting things said, Aisha. Thank you. Um, Do you maybe have, especially for the young artists, but maybe anyone who is interested in what you do, some, or I would say, let's keep it short, 3 key takeaways on how they can actually enter this space, right? Really, in general, doesn't, yeah,
Yeah. So the three takeaways would be to first inform yourself. Okay, don't just jump into projects. Inform yourself as much as you can. Do your research. Everyone says that, but when I say research, pick your area. Okay, you don't have to know everything, but whatever you want to do, just do it. And then the second thing is do experiments. Okay, just don't think that the first thing you come up with is actually the best idea of the world. That never happens. You have to try, and then through the trials you have to kind of fix it. And then the third thing is talk to people. Okay, even if you're a shy person, even if it's hard for you to do it, just find ways that you can communicate. Now you can do it through an avatar. Now you can be in metaverse and do it. So now there are many ways to communicate, right? So you can pick an identity and do different stuff with it. So don't let it hold you back. But yeah, these 3 points can allow anyone to basically start with Web3 and then find your own way.
cool. So fail forward and validate, right? If your idea is a good one. Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Aisha, for being here. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for your time. And yeah, if you don't have anything left to say, I wish you a great day, everyone watching as well. And yeah, see you soon.
Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.